the quarterback market right now. And two guys that have gotten paid yesterday, and we're about to talk about it and react to it. One of them being Tua Tagovailoa, signing a 4-year, $212 million extension. And I think about 150 of that is guaranteed. And this is a guy in Tua Tagovailoa now is the fourth highest paid quarterback in the National Football League, $53.1 million a year. What was your first takeaway when you saw Tua Tagovailoa sign that massive contract yesterday?
Yeah, I thought it was insane. I don't know what the Miami Dolphins were thinking. I mean, it's clear what Tua Tagovailoa is, and he's a fine quarterback. Here's the difference between Tua Tagovailoa and Trevor Lawrence. Paying Trevor Lawrence makes you feel better because Trevor Lawrence is 6'4". He has all the he has all the tangibles of a playoff caliber quarterback. He looks the part. Tua Tagovailoa, when you give him $53 million, he doesn't look the part, and he doesn't make you feel very good because he also has injury concerns. The guy's little. And so when you're out there paying guys like Tua Tagovailoa that much money in an offense that is clearly catered to Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, Devondre Achane, yada, 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 Terran Armstead, who's the left tackle of that team, I thought it was insane. I thought it was really crazy. I would have paid Tua Tagovailoa $45 million a year, and I would have done it with a 2+1, meaning after 2 years, if I want to get out, I can. In the third year, we'll see. But Tua clearly wasn't going for that, and the Miami Dolphins clearly see something in Tua Tagovailoa that a lot of us don't. I would hope the GM, and I'm sure he did, spoke with Mike McDaniel and Mike McDaniel gave the green light on this. Because I feel like if you gave a lot of quarterbacks Mike McDaniel in that offense, I feel like it'd be pretty good. And so the Tua Tagovailoa getting $53 million, that is something that's really going to hurt your cap. And also in a state with no state tax. I'm just surprised he took that much. But I get it. Your second contract in the NFL is where you usually make all your money. But I thought it was really crazy for Tua, now who makes $7 million more a year than Kyler Murray. That's kind of insane.
Yeah, I think for Tua Tagovailoa, I thought the same thing. I don't think he deserved it. Look, I mean, in his last season, 29 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, but you go in an offense where they like to throw the football around the yard. You got a lot of talent on the outside, and we talk about, Brock Purdy and the 49ers offense, and there's speculation. People think, oh, well, he's got a lot of weapons around him. Anyone can plug in on that offense. You look at the Dolphins, you could argue the same thing. And,
oh, yeah.
And in a contract year for Tua Tagovailoa, I would have loved to see Mike McDaniel say, you know what, I want to see one more year of you. Prove to me that you deserve this contract. And who knows, maybe he could have made even more money, but coming off of a season where you prove it, and instead of last year where I saw kind of, a lot of too many interceptions. The quick release is nice, but you saw him kind of eye down a lot of wide receivers on the outside, which led to interceptions. But this is an offense, Ben, that we saw with the Dolphins, and they made the playoffs and were run efficiently and almost beat the Bills with Skylar Thompson at quarterback. So you wonder, with Mike McDaniel, and like you said, you made a great point. Mike McDaniel had to have had some influence on this contract of him wanting this deal with him. He maybe have said, Mike McDaniel, hey, Tua Tagovailoa is my guy. He's the guy that runs my offense the best. And having Tua Tagovailoa and Mike McDaniel in the same offense for years to come is only going to benefit the Dolphins. But this is also a guy in Tua Tagovailoa that we didn't think was going to play football in a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. We didn't think he was going to play football the amount of times he got sacked and the amount of hits he had to his head. And luckily he's come back from that due to his jiu-jitsu training and what he's been doing health-wise, losing a ton of weight. But I don't know. I really scratched my head on this, and I scratched my head in the quarterback market as a whole, because I think the Dolphins were pressured to do this because the quarterback market's all based on paying guys now while the price is right versus waiting another year and having to waste another $10, $15 million a year, whereas other positions, it's based on their play, if that makes sense. For the wide receiver market, it's based on their play, whereas the quarterback market seems more pressured, if that makes sense.
We also saw yesterday the Jordan Love $55 million a year, and I'm going to tie this all together in just a second. Jordan Love has one career playoff win. He has started one full season. I am a Jordan Love believer. I was the one pounding the drum of Jordan Love before everyone else last year, before the season even started, because I had said, you're telling me the Packers just got rid of Aaron Rodgers just to get rid of Aaron Rodgers? They know Jordan Love is ready to play. And surely enough, they should have been in the conference championship last year if they could seal the deal against the Niners. But here's an interesting stat that I saw from Rich Eisen. The new top 8 paid quarterbacks in the NFL, and I won't go through all their money, but I'll label them. Love, Lawrence, Burrow, Tua, Goff, Herbert, Lamar, and Hurts. Their combined playoff record, the top 8 highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL, 16-17 in the playoffs.
Oof.
Combined 3 Super Bowls with 0 Super Bowl wins. And then he added, paying and hoping. Just because you have paid this exorbitant amount of money to your quarterback of the future, the guy that you're putting all your marbles in, actually shows you are more likely to not win a Super Bowl. I mean, Brock Purdy's been to a Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo's been to a Super Bowl, and we saw with how much they got paid, the flexibility to be able to go do that. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes get it. They understand they got to take less money for the betterment of the team. I'd argue Josh Allen would have multiple Super Bowls if he didn't run into Patrick Mahomes, which I'm not going to condemn him for because everyone loses to Patrick Mahomes. So it's just kind of crazy to me that we see this trend and teams continue to give in to these quarterbacks. Like, I'd pay Burrow $55 million a year. And honestly, I'd pay Herbert $52 and Lamar $52. But as much as I love Jordan Love, the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, and then Tua Tagovailoa coming in at $1 million and a little over a half short of Burrow, it feels like it's what makes you feel good, but in the end of the day, it's not going to help you. It's like empty calories. Like, I love eating a burger, but it's not good for me at the end of the day. Like, it solved my hunger for a little bit, but I'm probably not going to become the fittest man in the world. I hope you understand what I mean by that, but I'm curious now as well as the Jordan Love thing for you. $55 million a year. Even for someone like me who's a huge Jordan Love fan, kind of insane.
Yeah, and that was to my point earlier about Tua Tagovailoa. It felt like the Dolphins were pressured to make this move, and for the Packers doing the same thing, they're on the road to win a championship and win a Super Bowl. And I think Jordan Love, I don't know if he held out during the situation or kind of took reps back, but you've got to have your quarterback in these training camp practices. And I think for Jordan Love, so just for the whole franchise to all be settled and just focus on one common goal, they had to get this done. Jordan Love, look, I mean, the Packers took a risk drafting Jordan Love later in the first round when they had Aaron Rodgers. They took a risk leaving or trading Aaron Rodgers away and keeping Jordan Love for the season. And at the first half of the season, no one believed in Jordan Love. We saw a lot of, bad throws, inerrant errors, even in the playoffs against the Niners. Some errors that Jordan Love can build on. But I think the more impressive thing is what he's been able to do in that back end of the season with how young their roster is, how young their wide receiver core is. And for the Packers, they're able to do that because they don't really have to pay any real other superstars on their team because they have Jordan Love and they're able to get these rookie guys, some young dudes on their team like the Rashawn Garys, Jair Alexander they paid a while back, and some young wide receivers too. But I think for the Packers, I think out of all these contracts, if you had to pick between Jordan Love or Tua Tagovailoa, Jordan Love is the most deserving, and I think with him and Mike LaFleur, it's going to be interesting to see what they can do next season.
Oh, I mean, I get that. I would totally agree with you. If I had to give $53 million, or in this sense, $55 million to either Jordan Love or 53 to Tua Tagovailoa, I am 1,000%, 100 out of 100 times, picking Jordan Love. I love the tangibles of Jordan Love. I love that he's been mentored by Aaron Rodgers. But still, this is a team without an owner. So it does make it tougher. It's not a free agent destination. You wonder if it's going to be a lot of a Jordan Love or bust offense where he's asked to do everything, and that's a big deal, right? We saw Aaron Rodgers, who was asked to do everything. He was asked to take consistently wide receivers who we had never heard about to the Super Bowl, wide receivers that we had never heard about to deep playoff runs. And it's why people oftentimes go at Aaron Rodgers when it's like, no, he just took a lot of money, and the defense was never really that good. And when it was, the 1 year it was, they won a Super Bowl. So the Jordan Love thing is interesting. If I was to pay Tua or Jordan Love, I would absolutely pay Jordan Love. I love Jordan Love. But the stats are the stats. You pay your quarterback top 8 money. The stats show you're not winning a Super Bowl. And when you look at it, you should say, oh, this team paid their quarterback. That must mean they feel so good about it they think that this guy can win a Super Bowl, when in reality, that's just not the way the cookie crumbles.
The 2020 NFL draft class has combined for $1.25 billion in quarterback contracts. I think another my last takeaway from Jordan Love's contract, $75 million signing bonus has got to be one of the craziest things I think I've ever seen in a contract itself. And I think that signing bonus, correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, I don't think the signing bonus affects the cap. I think that's just from the owner itself.
So oftentimes that's what teams will do. They'll convert money into a signing bonus to lower the cap number. So in reality, like, the salary cap doesn't actually exist. If you have a rich owner, you can do whatever you want, but it's a risky business, right? We've seen this with the Saints. We've seen this with the Eagles. We've never seen it with our team, the Arizona Cardinals, because Michael Bidwell, call it what it is, has been notoriously cheap. It's not just blaming him. Ken Kendrick has been. The former Suns owner, Robert Sarver, was. You can convert that money into a signing bonus. So it's interesting to see at the end of the day, when we talk about these two contracts, what the cap number is. How much of this affects the cap. So we'll see when those numbers come out, but still interesting.
We're going to talk about who we think is going to get paid next, as there's some quarterbacks in their last year of their deals that are eligible for a new contract extension. The Brock Purdy's of the world. Dak Prescott's name always thrown out there. Who's deserving of it? What are the projected lines? And I'm going to throw it to you, Ben. Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott. What are the projections that you're seeing for both of those? And then we'll kind of dive into what we think about those, if they're deserving or not.
Yeah, so yesterday before the Jordan Love deal was announced, Bleacher Report put out a really good article about projecting the next couple of contracts. Now, they put out Jordan Love's, and then Jordan Love's came out, which was pretty accurate. They said that Dak Prescott, who also wants a new deal, will land a 4-year, $224 million deal in 2025 free agency. So if you do the math on that, average annual value, always it's guaranteed money. That really matters, but we wouldn't have that right now. $56 million a year for Dak Prescott. And then you see Brock Purdy's contract, $266 divided by 5 years, $53 million. Even more specifically, in an Arizona Cardinals sense, that's what we cover here. And we'll talk about it, I guess, a little bit later as well. Brock Purdy going from $750,000 a year to $53.5 million a year.
I saw even $65 million.
Yeah, we saw something later on, right? We saw another tweet Bill Barnwell had put out that he could potentially get $65 million a year annually. That is going to completely change the San Francisco 49ers. That contract is looming. And that is going to change everything. If Brock Purdy gets $65 million a year, when C.J. Stroud needs a contract, you mentioned it during the break, what is he going to get? $80 million a year? I mean, C.J. Stroud is clearly better than Brock Purdy. I mean, when Kyler Murray needs a new deal, what if Kyler Murray takes the Cardinals to the playoffs this year? Does he hold out for another contract? Does he automatically get $55 million a year? The quarterback money is getting insane in the NFL, and it's worth every penny, because having stability at quarterback is everything. It's really interesting in this article as well. They project that Dak Prescott will find a new contract elsewhere in free agency.
Well, I saw too is his comments at his press conference yesterday. I thought were pretty suspect a little bit. Pretty why would you say that? Him talking about there's other quarterbacks out there that have gone on and have had great careers on other teams. I was shocked by his comments that he would even mention another team or the possibility of him leaving after the season when the season hasn't even begun yet.
Let me defend Dak Prescott here, which is one of the rare things I'll do. I don't blame the guy. If I'm Dak Prescott, he is now underpaid. Before I would make fun of Dak Prescott because he was the issue, because he was overpaid. Now he's underpaid. He is severely underpaid in the landscape of the NFL. And for a guy that has carried the Dallas Cowboys for relevancy over the past couple of years, I would want a contract too. And I'm done playing footsie with you. And we just saw a report last week that the Dallas Cowboys are prioritizing a deal with CeeDee Lamb over Dak Prescott. Dude, that's your quarterback. And if I'm Dak, and they're clearly out loud saying, we care about CeeDee Lamb's contract more than yours, yeah, I'm saying the same thing. I'm creating any leverage I can. But it is interesting to me that some teams out there would be willing to pay Dak Prescott $55 million a year, which I believe is severely overpaid, to come on their team just to have relevancy. That is what the quarterback market has become. People just want someone that will help keep them relevant, like the Falcons did with Kirk Cousins this year.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think for Dak Prescott making $40 million a year, I think with his playoff record being 2-5 and what we've seen him in the playoffs, I don't think he's deserving of that on this team. I think what's interesting with Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott is the 49ers and Cowboys are in a tough situation, and we'll talk about this more on the other side, is you've got other superstars alongside your quarterback. You've got superstar wide receivers for CeeDee Lamb and for Micah Parsons that they're eventually going to have to pay, and CeeDee Lamb, who's also holding out. For the 49ers, you got Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams, who are also holding out, that you're going to have to pay alongside Brock Purdy next season. So I think you're right, Ben. For the 49ers and Cowboys, this season and maybe the season after that, Super Bowl window is starting to get tighter and tighter as you got to pay your quarterbacks a ton of money. And you're right, $725,000 a year versus $65 million a year. Got to be the biggest jump we've seen from a quarterback contract ever.
So let me try to catch you here a little bit. You'd mentioned $40 million a year is too much for Dak Prescott. I would disagree at this point, and you're making me defend Dak Prescott, which is insane. $46 million a year.
I think $40 million a year is right. I don't think he's worth $60 million.
Oh, no. Okay, then I guess I was a little confused there. Yeah, there is a fine line between what you should pay your quarterback and now, like in our sense, Kyler Murray's $46 million a year, the, I believe, 9th highest paid quarterback in the NFL. For his talent, that's exactly where I would want to be. So I'm interested, and I think it's fascinating to see where this quarterback market can go, because ultimately, if teams are going to continue to just give people crazy money, it's like, what extent are these teams willing to go?